I actually want to try something different for the lineup.
Okay.
So I'm going to count from 1 to 10. And then on 5, you join me.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
5,
6,
6,
7,
7,
8,
8,
9,
9,
10.
10.
So we ended the last thing talking about Destiny and where you were at. And I've actually played a good amount of Destiny between our last discussion and now.
Really? Because I have not,
Oh, really?
unfortunately. Yeah.
About the season pass or
Uh
whatever it
huh.
was.
Yeah.
And I burned through it. I got to like 965 or 970 or something on my Titan.
Oh, yeah. Power
And then
level.
I got so angry at the quests. I think
Yeah.
I did the seasonal quest where I was either siding with the Gambit dude or I was siding with the what's his name? I can't remember what his
The
name is.
Vanguard.
Yeah, the Vanguard or what's the guy's name with the Gambit?
The Drifter.
Yeah, so you either side with the
Yeah, yeah.
Drifter or you side with the Vanguard.
Uh huh.
And that quest was so long. and
Yes.
and I
Yes.
finish it and I get nothing.
Yeah, you don't get anything. In
And
fact,
I was pissed.
you lose out on lore entries from that
Yeah.
quest. No matter what
Yeah.
you pick, there's like half of that lore book that you just don't
Yeah,
get.
which I like in itself. I don't really have a problem with because a lot of games will do that, and you
Hmm.
make a choice and you go down, and then you get one or two things.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's kind of lazy of them to only do lore. They've written out this thing and nothing actually changes.
Right. Yeah, it's just like there's a couple of a few lines like if you play Gambit. So I sided with the Vanguard for that quest, and during Gambit, the Drifter will call me like a snitch or a rat or something, and
Yeah,
that's it. That's the only thing I've noticed.
and so like obviously games like Mass Effect, like it's a big thing that you make
Oh
choices and you
man,
can no
yeah.
longer do things because of those choices.
Hmm.
This kind of feels like a lose-lose situation where nothing really changes. You just don't get to read some of the lore because of it.
Right.
It's a
Yeah.
very lazy way to do it. And I was sitting there like, I don't know what it was, 2 in the morning or something, and I'm finishing this stupid quest after probably 5 times
Uh
of
huh.
thinking that I was at the last step.
Yeah.
And I go and talk to him, and he's like, "I'll remember this." And then I just go to my quest book, and it's just gone. I was
Yeah.
like, "Really?
That's
Are you
it.
serious?
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna give me just mountains of money for this for this crap that I've just done?"
Nope.
I was mad, and the questing is just terrible, and I hit my max because I have so many quests,
Hmm.
and I'm never gonna do them if they're this long. So like a week ago, I stopped, but up until then, when I was still getting just past the soft cap, I was playing a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of multiplayer and stuff because that's what I like. But
Hmm.
is Destiny still the main thing between other games?
Right this very moment, it's kind of up in the air what I'm currently playing right now. So it was for like weeks and weeks. Destiny 2 was kind of the only thing I was playing, and I was having tons of fun. Last season, I just thought was so much fun with saving Saint 14 in the game. And there was this new activity that it was just so easy to farm super awesome weapons, and they looked cool, and the armor looked cool. It was just a lot of fun. And then this new season came out, and the seasonal content was, first of all, locked behind higher power levels. My character wasn't strong enough to participate in the new content, so I was stuck doing old stuff until I got powerful enough. And then when I got there, the whole seasonal event is just so repetitive. There's the Seraph bunkers, right? Have you done anything with
I've
those?
done because the Seraph bunkers came up at least on Mars. The Seraph bunkers were there for a while on Mars, and now they're like everywhere, or like on the EDZ as well. I've done the Seraph bunker on Mars, and I've done that multiple times, and that's kind of an enjoyable thing to do. But I did the like you were saying with the power level. I think the one on the EDZ is 980 or something,
Are you talking about the
and
bunker or the towers?
the towers.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. That's the power level locked thing where I
Yeah,
would
and
hop
that was
in,
stupid.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I would just get just lambasted by
Yeah.
these supposed to be trash mobs, and they just absolutely eviscerate me. And
Yeah.
so I mean, it's an activity that's built for a big group of people working in very close tandem. It's designed for a well communicating group, and
Yeah.
I don't have that. And so I'm just kind of at the mercy of the universe to put people in the activity with me to finish it. And
The
so
one on Mars didn't feel like that at the very least. Like I don't know if you've done the one on Mars all the way through.
Yeah, yeah. So that
That
one's
one's fun.
so fun, right? And like
And it's like stressful that you're, because there's like layers. Like I'm putting a lot of time into the, by the time we get to the, I don't know how many layers in where you actually go through it all.
yeah.
But I think it was obviously a lot more stressful because that was kind of set up for the power level of the previous season when it released.
Yeah.
But I remember doing it back then, and I was stressed because we were getting at the higher things. We were getting wrecked, but we were trying to get the timers and stuff, and then you get to the point where you get to the later ones, and it's basically saying like do everything, like you have to do this and hit all the bosses and do this.
Yep. Yep.
And everybody's just running. It just seems like 10 people with their heads cut off.
Oh yeah.
But that one was a lot of fun. And then this one, I get into the one with the EDZ, and I had no idea what was going on. People were dropping orbs for some reason, and so I picked one up, and I had no idea what to do with it, and so I threw it at the thing, and it just disappeared. It didn't do anything. And I'm trying to like follow people as they're holding their orbs, and they're throwing it at the same thing. And it has a completely different effect when they throw it. I'm like, okay, well, this is just effed up. And I'm dying to everything.
Oh, yeah.
I quickly got turned off to the whole thing. Whereas the Mars one was, I really enjoyed the Mars.
Yeah, that one, like, I've gone into the Mars one with me and, like, one other random person. And we went through, like, the whole thing from start to finish and got the prize at the end. It was so fun. But this one, unless you have 4 or 5 and probably 6 really good players who know exactly what to do and when to do it, it's so hard. It's almost impossible to do it because all of the enemies are just so powerful, and there's like you have to throw that orb at this tiny little target, and I don't know what the orb is made out of, but you can't throw it more than like 30 feet without it just like dropping straight to the ground. And so yeah, the arc.
Maybe that's what mine did.
When you throw it is so steep. I mean, you're like hucking it almost straight up. You're in just the throwing air knuckleballs to go where you want it to go. It's a pain. And then the bunkers. There's this like the war satellite system has these bunkers on all the planets and stuff, and so you got to go level up the bunkers so that the war satellite can be more powerful to stop the big bad thing from happening.
Yeah, so I cleared out the bunker, but it seems like a pain because there's like 3 levels of currency, and you need the highest level of currency to level up the bunker. And I was looking at this thing, and to me it seemed just like undoable.
Unless you're a YouTube streamer that just plays Destiny for 8 hours a day, like it is so hard. It's so hard to get the currency because the only way to get the currency is to do that tower event on the EDZ and finish it perfectly. And that will give you a marginal amount of the currency. Or the other way is to do...
What is it, like encrypted thing is what you need?
Bits or whatever. They're like encrypted little data discs.
Because you get the normal data discs, which I thought was perfectly okay, but no, I need encrypted data discs. That's all the Warmind wants.
Stuff from buying the stuff with the bits only on that planet, but it's just such a grind. And the other way to get the currency is to do bounties, which you've already said you have trouble stacking up bounties because like the quest log's so full.
I have so many quests. Oh my goodness.
Right.
Like bounties are the most successful thing to make me play on a daily basis.
Yeah, but that's like the only thing. I've had a couple of play sessions where I've just set my mind to, okay, I'm going to upgrade this stupid bunker. And I just go and buy the repeatable bounties over and over and over and just deplete my glimmer. So I completely run my bank account dry buying these bounties and finish all these bounties and just spend like 2, 3, 4 hours on these bounties. And I have enough for 1 upgrade. And
that's not
I'm like,
not about that.
This is so tedious. This is a video game, man. I'm not doing this for work. I'm here to have fun. Like this isn't it's not fun. And so between that and just the stresses of being a dad of 3 kids and quarantine situation being what it is, I haven't been playing much Destiny, and I do feel sad about that because I had so much fun, but I just don't feel myself driven to play it right now.
Yeah, especially that bunker. Like I didn't try very hard. I looked at that bunker maybe twice. Like I went into the one on Mars, and then I went into the one on the EDZ, and I was like, man, this is about 2 layers more than the effort that I'm gonna put into this thing.
Yeah.
In my mind, it seemed like tiered. You're gonna get a lot of this currency, and then you're going to get like a little bit of this one. And then this top one is really hard to get, but that's actually the only one that matters to get this stupid thing up. And then it just became like, I was looking at all of it and I just kind of turned around and kind of acted like it wasn't there anymore. And I never do repeatable bounties. I just get the ones that give me the powerful rewards.
Yeah.
And then I switch characters. And apparently there's been a big discussion about, they made some thing about you like giving appreciation for the character that you play, making these like tight-knit communities for the Titan and the Warlock and the Hunter. But then everybody's like getting really mad because the most efficient way that they made for your character to level up and all this stuff is to maintain 3 characters.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna act like I'm any different. I work on the one character and then I move those weapons over to the next one. So that makes that next guy's thing faster, and then I move, and that guy gets even higher, and then I move those way, and I kind of rotate them around, and then the season pass obviously levels up faster between the 3 characters, so that all 3 of them are more powerful than the one guy that's working on his one thing.
Yeah.
And so I saw that there was a lot of controversy on that. I don't really care too much for the selfish reason that I do maintain 3 characters when I'm playing the game.
Yeah.
And I don't really mind too much about the power level thing, as I always hit the soft cap from playing. And I actually got really mad. I did a lot of stuff before starting the story this time because I forgot how to get the season pass. And so I did a ton, and I went and I had completely forgot the season pass was a thing. And then they dropped this thing on me, and I was like, oh, for the love of, like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, I would have been like level 10 on this thing already.
Yeah.
But I usually always hit the soft cap on multiplayer, and then I start working on stuff, and or I'll work through the story after I hit the soft cap so that I get higher stuff through the story rewards. So I never really mind about the story thing, and for the most part I'm just trying to ignore the bunkers and just act like they're not there. And then like with the quests are the main thing that keep me away from the game right now. They're just crazy.
There's a lot.
So you mentioned you have Destiny. There's not a lot to talk about if it's not occupying your time right now, but you did mention a bunch. I'm guessing all of these abbreviations are Roman numerals for Final Fantasy. I'm just
I wrote down some of the other games that I'm currently playing. And yes, there is a pattern. You will see. So there's
Are you playing the remake right now?
Soon. But that's this whole thing, and I'll get to that in just a sec. But
all right, I won't get in your way. I'm not gonna act like I know anything about any of the things that you posted in here.
Don't ruin my punchline, Jordan.
I'm looking
at this list, and I can't believe I missed this one game. Kind of ashamed of myself. But anyway, Destiny 2. I still do pick up Destiny 2, and I played it for a couple hours over the weekend. But Final Fantasy 12, the Zodiac Age, Kingdom Hearts 3. I told you a couple weeks ago that I started a new game plus to just do a quick story run.
Actually enjoy it.
Yeah, to do a quick story run for the stuff that I missed while I fell asleep while playing it. And then DFFOO is a phone Final Fantasy game.
Okay.
It's Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia is what that all stands for. Yes. Wow. It's really cool.
Wow. I don't feel like they needed all those words.
They definitely don't, but that's just quintessential Final Fantasy, adding in all these Latin words that are meaningless and don't really explain what's going on.
I think they just kept adding those words. Just Omnia, omnipotence.
Yep, exactly.
So what does this one do on the phone?
It's actually a really cool idea that I had in 4th or 5th grade. I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if there was a game where all of the Final Fantasy characters came to the same world and they all fought together? And that's what this game is. Like, you've got Cloud from Final Fantasy VII, or all the Final Fantasy VII characters with all of the characters from all the other games, and they're just fighting to save this other world. So that's a lot of fun.
That sounds like it. Sounds like I don't know how Mario or Super Smash Bros. Got started, but that kind of sounds like Super Smash Bros.
Kind of. It's more of a JRPG, but yeah, I mean, the premise is kind of there. Like, all the characters come together and they're fighting the big bad thing. Yeah.
Oh, so you guys are fighting you guys aren't fighting each other. You're fighting, like you're working together. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So it's all right. You can have on your.
So it's not like Smash Bros.
No, not. I mean, not really, but
okay.
I mean, if you think of Master Hand.
I appreciate you saying yes in the beginning.
I'm trying to make it sound
so just like yeah,
it's trying to make it sound good still.
Well, I mean, we're already down the hole on that one.
I mean, if you think of Master Hand as like the big bad boss of Super Smash Bros., it's kind of like the city of Final Fantasy. Sure. Why not?
Who's the big baddie in Final Fantasy Omnipotent Omnifocus something?
It is doesn't have a name. It's just kind of evil in general. They keep calling it the Blackened Will, and basically it's like if all of the evilness of the universe condensed into this big weird organ looking thing, like looks kind of like a stomach a little bit, that's like causing all this chaos and like ripping holes in space-time and sucking these characters from their world into this communal world that's being destroyed, and the destruction of this like communal world is going to lead to the destruction of all the worlds. So all the characters from all the games team up and they're trying to beat this thing so that they can all go home.
So they can all go back to their respective
Yeah,
timelines or
so
whatever.
it's fun. There's a lot of FFs on my list. There's Final Fantasy Record Keeper. It's another phone Final Fantasy game. Then Final Fantasy VII Remake. What I love about Final Fantasy games is the character-driven story elements. Like, I don't know if you have looked at Reddit about Final Fantasy VII Remake, but there's all kinds of stuff about just how dramatic the character interactions are, just how nostalgic it is for players who played the first one.
There's a channel that I follow on YouTube, and he just finished Final Fantasy VII, and I didn't follow it at all, but if he had just so happened within the hour, because he goes hard on games when he pulls them up. He'll post 4 or 5 videos a day of the playthrough, and so I would watch maybe like 5 minutes of it, and then close it out, and then I watched the
how
ending.
dare you.
Yeah, I know, this is how much I care. And it definitely seemed good. I mean, the graphics were amazing. I kind of saw some of the images from the old one. For people that have played both, I imagine it's a very satisfying experience. And then obviously it seems fun that he swings the big sword around. I don't know what the big deal is about having a humongous sword, and I don't know how that's okay with everybody else in the city when he's like walking around, that he just has like the equivalent of a cannon on his back.
What's wrong with that?
That never makes sense to me, that he's just walking down the street.
It's story armor, man. It's plot armor. He's a video game protagonist. Everybody's fine with everything that he does because he's the good guy. Don't you know?
It's just like I can't even see his shoulder blades because he just has this.
Yeah, man. If there's one thing that I want you to do is to play the original Final Fantasy VII. It's so good. Still, like I've gone back and played it recently, and it, like, terrible graphics and antiquated gameplay mechanics taken into account, it still holds up as an amazing game. Even if you put it up next to the remake, it's so good. And what makes it good is, again, the story. Like, I watched this 12 or 13 part miniseries on YouTube on Kotaku's channel. This guy, he speaks Japanese pretty fluently, so he played the Japanese copy of the original Final Fantasy VII alongside, step by step, an English copy of the game. And he translated every text box in the entire game from Japanese to English. And so it was fascinating. I loved every second of it. It was like just oodles and oodles of hours of this guy just talking about how in Japanese this means something slightly different, but how, like, the slight difference means so much.
So he's like taking you through and trying to bring you up to what the experience was in the native language.
Yeah. And there was this, he explained that the translation was so bad because the Japanese or the English translation was done by one man who was given an Excel spreadsheet and a timetable of 14 days to translate an entire game from Japanese to English. Jeez. And so, I mean, he brings that up several times throughout the miniseries, that there's so much inconsistencies and just bad translations, because, like, who knows? Like, this guy could have been doing this for, 76 hours straight on nothing but midnight black coffee and beef jerky. And, like, he missed this one mark on the Japanese letter that turned this whole word into something else. And so, like, there's a lot of those inconsistencies.
Obviously, when you're in that situation, you're going to make a lot of straight up mistakes. But beyond that, you don't at all have the time allowed to, like, try to figure out, even if it has to be a completely different sentence, like, what makes sense for what the concept of
exactly.
it is. Like, you have no time. You have no time to try to figure that out. Like, what are they actually trying to get across here, and how does it, like... That sucks. That sucks for that guy too, because I can see that being like one of the things. Like, somebody gets his name And I don't know if that's what actually happened, but I could see it kind of the thing that happened to Mass Effect Andromeda. But somebody gets the name of somebody in the company and they just blame everything on them for what's wrong.
Yeah, nothing. At least from the community's standpoint, like the fan base's perspective, like everybody kind of venerates that guy for doing what he did, and I mean, we kind of understand that that was a sucky situation, and he did the absolute best that he could, and we obviously
Yeah.
loved the game with all of the grammatical inconsistencies anyway. So like that wasn't really a an issue, but one thing that kept coming up in this miniseries was how absolutely perfect the story pacing was of the original game. I mean, every conversation with any NPC had just the perfect amount of foreshadowing and character development that guided you along the railroad of the story, but still allowed just this perfect mix of world to explore along outside of the railroad. And that's really why the original Final Fantasy VII was so amazing, was they hit this absolute stride of pacing the story out in the perfect bite-size amounts at the perfect times, and it's just such a beautifully told story.
It seemed like a fairly open world,
For the time, yeah, for the time it was a really big world to explore.
and like it has the similar things to, at least in the remake, as far as I could see, like you were pretty well open to go and do something on the side if you wanted
Mm-hmm.
to. It wasn't like a Halo where you kind of drop down and you have a
Oh
task.
yeah, yeah. There are a couple of times in the game where you are kind of stuck doing what the story wants you to do, but outside those, like
Mm-hmm.
like 2, 3 times, you can just branch off and totally go wherever you want and just explore. Not that there was a ton of things to find in that game, but there was enough to do to make it fun.
So you're talking about this, and you're saying, and you said you haven't bowled here soon. So what's the thing on that?
So it's the remake has come out for what, 2 weeks now? Week and a half, 2 weeks now. It's been out, and I don't have it yet. And I'm a huge fan of the original game, and so there's a considerable portion of me that just dies every time that I want to play it and I can't because I don't have it. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm just waiting for things to kind of calm down so I can go get it.
So this is the next thing then that you're trying to
And
get.
so I've.
Because
Mm-hmm,
I did look into it. Obviously, it's a PlayStation
mm-hmm.
exclusive, and so that was a pretty quick end to my search. And I don't need to go buy another PS4 on eBay and go through all that again. But it does look very good. So you're waiting to get what, a physical copy or a digital
Yeah.
copy, or you're waiting for your tax
Yeah, I'm
return,
waiting to
or
get a physical copy. I actually did go to Walmart last week after it had been released, and we were looking around, and I swung by the video game section to see if they had it, and it was sold out. So I was really bummed. But yeah, that's a game that I definitely want a hard copy of for sentimental reasons.
okay. I can respect that. I had a friend. He basically asked me. He's like, "What can I play right now that's gonna take a ton of time during this quarantine?" Because he exclusively did Uber
Mm,
and something else called like Handyman or something.
okay.
But those two things have gone away
Oh
completely.
wow.
And so, unlike me, where I'm very busy, since he was only doing those things, he's completely free. I had suggested it to him, Assassin's Creed, the Ezio collection, and I can't remember if you said
Solid.
you had played any Assassin's Creeds.
Yeah, I've played Assassin's Creed 2 with Ezio. I don't think I beat it, but I played a fair amount of it. Super fun.
Ezio is pretty universally the favorite
Yeah,
character.
yeah, he's kind of the grandpappy of all the assassins.
Yeah, and then they go back and they go through everything, but for the community, like Ezio is everybody's favorite dude.
Oh, big
And
time.
there's the whole thing is, yeah, like they were testing the game out with the first game. It was a very good game, but it was super uber repetitive
Mm-hmm.
because you're doing the same thing, you're just going to different cities.
Right. Yeah.
And then Ezio comes along, you just got this young gung-ho dude
Uh-huh.
doing his thing, and you follow him through his entire life basically,
Mm-hmm.
through Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, and Assassin's Creed Revelations.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was looking at that, and you could get it on the Xbox store for probably 30 or $40, but everywhere else it was completely out of stock.
Right.
Every physical copy was gone. People are buying
Yeah,
everything up.
that's how it is. It sucks, man.
I was kind of looking into an Oculus Quest, And
Oh
the
yeah.
same thing where it's like you basically the notification that you get is we will let you know when we have more.
Yeah.
Everybody wants one now. Everybody wants to play Beat Saber. Everybody wants to play Beat Saber.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
Everybody wants to get the workout by doing that, and everybody wants
Uh-huh.
VR when they're bored, and so there was no chance I was getting
Yeah.
that. I didn't need one right now, and so it's a good thing it wasn't available. I made equally unwise purchases, but I did not make that unwise purchase. So you're waiting for Final Fantasy.
Yes. And this is actually a cool story. I've had this just insatiable itch to play Final Fantasy
Mm-hmm.
VII. And so Final Fantasy VII, for the uninitiated, um, is kind of the flagship of Square Enix. It's like the fan favorite. It's got the most spin-offs. There's a PS2 game that came out that was spun off of Final Fantasy VII. There was a PSP spin-off, and then there were a number of anime TV shows and Japanese release only phone games back in the day.
When did the original game come out?
It was like 95 or 97. Yeah, it's getting up there. I should know that as a such an avid fan.
That's okay. I just realized this week that I've been saying. I think you've heard me before. I probably have the same love for Skyrim that you have for Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I just realized I've been saying that it came out in 2012 for however many years. And I just saw the other day that it came out in November of 2011. And I was like, okay, well, I'm an idiot.
Ah, boy. Yeah. Oh, well, I can relate.
So we're on the same page there. That is a long
Yeah,
time though.
yeah.
I was not born when that game came out.
Yeah, and I didn't play it. I was born in 93, so I was really young. I don't even think I had a PlayStation when it did come out. I remember.
Did it come out on the original PlayStation? Was that the
Yep,
thing that it came out on?
PlayStation 1. It was the first 3D Final Fantasy game with like 3D character models and a 3D world. First Final Fantasy game on a disc. I mean, it was a big deal, and I don't know the numbers, but I think still to this day they've sold more copies of the original Final Fantasy VII than they had any other release since then. Yeah, and Final Fantasy VII Remake in the first 3 days after release sold 3.5 million copies in 3 days, and I was super happy to hear that because I mean it deserves every bit of that. It's so good right now.
What's the most recent Final Fantasy game?
Final Fantasy 15 was the most recent flagship main title entry Final Fantasy game back in 2015, I think.
The other thing that was always confusing to me is it seemed some areas of the game seemed very I don't want to say medieval, but like fantasy, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
obviously Final Fantasy does it in a way where, like in Final Fantasy 15, I saw playthroughs and they're like driving a car. They're driving a sports car. It looks like.
Yeah, that's a big part of the. Yeah, that is a big part of the game. Yeah, you get the car.
So that just always confused me as well. It's like, all right, not only like
Yeah.
it's weird enough that in this fantasy setting this guy just gets to walk around with this sword, but in a modern fantasy setting this guy just gets to walk around with this big sword. And it was too much for me. I think that's what it was. Like this guy gets out of a
Dude.
sports car, and he on his back he has the sword that's like 5 feet long.
Yeah. Yeah,
Where did you that car does not fit that sword? There's nowhere you could put that sword in that car.
Well, in Final Fantasy 15, there's this whole thing about the weapons, like they dematerialize when you let go of them, and then you can just summon them back into your hands.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That was actually the next game I wanted to talk about on my currently playing, because I just started a new game plus on that.
On Final Fantasy 15?
15, yes. I just started that today, like this morning.
So you've been enjoying you like the new one as well?
Oh, I love it. Final Fantasy 15 is I can't even talk about how great it is.
I was told I got the impression from a lot of people
good.
that you do get to cry in multiple points of the game from the good story.
Oh yeah, again we got this character driven story that's just so good, man. It's the same Final Fantasy story over and over and over again.
Is it?
Every final you boil it down to the same thing. You got an immature protagonist goes on this transformative quest to find the MacGuffin or change the MacGuffin, and the antagonist has some close personal relationship to the protagonist. And so the whole game, the antagonist is antagonizing the protagonist. And through the quest, the protagonist, transforms and changes and matures and becomes this self-realized, self-confident, like hero, like the definition of a hero, and then saves the world, and that's it.
Sounds a lot like Pokemon.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good story to tell. The in the games, the character you play as doesn't really have much of a personality. I don't even think they speak.
Oh, in
But
the final,
anyway.
like in Final Fantasy.
No, in the Pokemon games, the character, the person, the human that you play as in Pokemon
Oh, really?
doesn't speak.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, but you talk. You for sure talk in Final Fantasy.
I've heard.
And it's
So
great.
in Final Fantasy VII, his name is Cloud, right?
Yes.
Because
And he's got a huge sword and a motorcycle.
I haven't even seen the motorcycle.
Oh, dude, it's the epitome of awesome. It's so cool.
Is
man.
it like a
there's these
like a Harley kind of
there's
thing?
these yeah, kind of. It's like, well, I mean, it's like a fantasy version of a Harley. There's these scenes where you're like fighting with your giant building-sized sword from your motorcycle, and there's these bad guys like chasing you on their motorcycles. It's so
What are they hitting
awesome.
you with? Are you getting? Are there guns? Are you getting shot with guns?
Yeah, they're shooting you with bullets, and you just get shot, and you're like, ah, and then you just like cut their motorcycle in half, and you just keep going.
My goodness.
It's so good, Jordan. It's so good.
I don't know if I can handle that, man.
It's so good, dude. Just try.
The thing that always, so kind of trying to relate it to Assassin's Creed a little bit, people, especially in the beginning, people were always down for the real life encounters. So I don't know if you remember at all, like the things that would happen in the present time when you were not in the Animus. I don't know if you remember much of that at all.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
In Assassin's Creed 2, you have escaped Abstergo.
Yes.
And you're in this rundown ancient city, and so you are dealing. You're in the Animus, you're doing things, but then every once in a while you go outside the Animus. One of the things you're doing this for is for the bleeding effect, so that you're learning these skills for the present time. And so everybody always wanted more present time stuff. Everybody wanted to fight people with guns. Everybody wanted to fight them with Assassin's Creed stuff.
Oh, yeah.
That was always the big thing. I think we got a little bit of that when we got... Obviously, I think Syndicate may have had some guns. I actually can't remember too well.
I haven't played it.
But we're getting a little bit of it now, and then I can't for the life of me remember. I mean, all the Assassin's Creed games are the same now.
Oh, yeah. There's so many.
I can't tell. I don't think there's... I think Final Fantasy still has the winning thing on that. I think Final Fantasy 15 takes the cake on that.
Yeah, dude, it's so good, man.
I
mean, as you know, my Dungeons and Dragons character that I play with in our campaign is based off of the protagonist from Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, so it's the main guy from 15?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the whole game, the evil empire is sending their essentially their droid army after you, and they have no problem shooting you and shooting rockets at you, and they've got huge, like, do you know what Gundams are? They send these huge, like, robot mechs after you, and they've got drop ships, and they've got all kinds of artillery, and you've just got your little sword, and you just like throw your sword around, and you warp to your sword, and you just like wreck this army, and it's so satisfying. There's missions where you have to go like infiltrate bases and forts and stuff. It's totally Metal Gear Solid or even Assassin's Creed. You gotta like sneak around the guys with the guns and stuff. It's just so good.
Is 15 on the computer yet, or is it still only on the PC? Final Fantasy 15 is on the computer?
Final Fantasy 15 is on Steam. It's even on Stadia. And if you get the Stadia version, there's some extra special stuff that's not in any other version.
Extra special stuff.
Yeah. But if you do get it, make sure you get the Royal Edition, because that's like the full, complete, the real one. And that's what I started this morning. I bought the Royal upgrade because I got the Day 1 edition when it released. And then from there, I just kind of added all the bonus stuff on through DLC. I hear good things about it, but I ain't about that monthly.
You don't want to hear about all the monthly subscriptions I pay for?
Oh, I definitely don't. But yeah, so that's what I'm playing most recently. And the thing that I'm most excited about was this that PSP spinoff from Final Fantasy VII. Briefly mentioned that a minute ago. So I bought that game like 2 years ago for PSP. Started playing it, got carried away with probably Final Fantasy 15 and just never picked it back up. And Final Fantasy VII Remake comes out, and I get this hunger for Final Fantasy VII in my life in any form. So I dig out my PSP and I turn it on, and as soon as the screen turns on, I see this giant crack diagonally through the screen. And
Oh,
so it's unusable. And I'm sitting there, and I just like drop it in my lap, and I just kind of hunch over, and I'm just like crestfallen
so wait, when is
that I
this?
can't. This was like 2 days ago that
And
this
what
happened.
screen was broken?
The screen on my PSP, the handheld
Okay,
Sony
I obviously
Game
don't know
Boy,
what a PS.
essentially.
I don't know. I don't know what a PSP is. I thought a PSP was just the first version of what the PS4 is now.
Oh, no, 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 no. Was a PlayStation 2 era handheld portable.
Oh,
It's
okay, okay.
PlayStation Portable.
So just a couple days ago, you open it up and there's a crack. All right, I'm following you now.
Yeah. So I am just heartbroken. My toddlers love to get into my stuff. They must have broken the screen on this PSP at one point. And so now I can't even play that game. And so I'm just like heartbroken. So I'm like searching online, is there a Steam version that I can buy? Is there some kind of pirated copy that I can download and play? And I remember that PSP has an
uh,
emulator software that somebody built that you can play on phones or computers or whatever. And so I start looking into that, and I've got an Apple phone, so downloading any kind of application from the internet is a
yeah.
whole bag of worms. So I'm like trying to download this emulator. The emulator won't download on my phone, but the file that you play through the emulator,
Yeah.
that is the game, I can download that just fine on my phone. So I have the game, but again, I don't have a way to play the game. So I'm like looking on my computer. I've got a Chromebook, and my Chromebook runs Android apps, and this emulator is on
Yeah.
the Google Play Store, because the Google Play Store is way more lenient on the kind of apps they have there. So I had no problem getting the emulator on my computer, but now I have the emulator on one device and the
Oh
game
no.
on a completely separate, not compatible device. So I'm like, man, but I found a way, Jordan. I found a way to
This is all
get it.
within the last 2 days.
Yes, this was yesterday,
You've
I
been busy.
think. I feel like such a hacker, even though I did zero hacking. So I've got the file on my phone. It came in a zipped file. So I had this app that would unzip the file so I could put it in the emulator,
Yeah.
but the emulator wasn't on my phone. But the unzip app, had a browser function that I could access the files through like a Chrome browser page. So what I did was I hooked it up through my computer to unzip the file from the cloud on that client. It was in the cloud, and I unzipped it to my computer from my phone. And so now I finally had the file and the emulator on the same device that I
I
could
think you
play
can
it on.
totally count yourself a hacker if you're going into the 7-zip files.
Yes. It was pretty cool. I mean, that stuff was all done by actual
The
hackers,
thing that you
probably.
find out quickly with any kind of programming is most of programming is just going into Pastebin or whatever it's called. It's just going into Pastebin and seeing if anybody's already done it, taking it. So I'm going through the beginning of this programming
Yeah.
class for Python and going through all the boards and stuff,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm learning very quickly that that's all people actually do is they just go on and see like,
Yeah.
has somebody actually already done the 5 pages of stuff that I need? Oh, lovely. But really quick, so you're talking about the Destiny and new things coming out with Destiny and then new things coming out with Final Fantasy. And I do want to, what's probably going to happen is right now I do, if I don't go back and I finished the Witcher 3 story, the game, for the first time, finally. Because I like,
Oh,
for like,
congratulations.
I think like 6 times or something ridiculous, I got probably 70% of the way through the game. And then I stopped. So I finally finished it. And then there's one really good DLC, and then the other one I haven't really heard much about. I don't know how much it adds. But the Blood and Wine DLC apparently is pretty awesome and also very fulfilling for those that read the books. And so if I don't go and fully finish the game, I'm never going to. And so I need to go through and finish The Witcher and then put it aside forever, besides the Netflix shows. But then Final Fantasy
Right.
looks, I'm kind of looking through it and it looks really nice. And so I might take a look at that. But,
Oh,
uh,
yes. I will not rest. I will not rest.
that's going to be really hard
until
on
you
your
do.
life. I have to let your wife know.
I accept the challenge.
RuneScape. I don't know if I had mentioned to you at all. Oh well, I mentioned to you when I was editing actually. RuneScape has come in for the save on editing the podcast because I was having the most difficult because I don't think I've ever done any kind of project where I can't listen to something while I'm doing it. There's never been something like that, and so I was having a heck of a time lasting more than like 15 minutes just doing this because it's something where if there's ever a thing that you need to multitask on, it's editing a podcast because it is monotonous. And I was trying to figure out, and I've seen videos, and like the guy that is in one of the podcasts that I listen to, he did a time lapse, like a 10-hour time lapse that he sped up, so it was an hour long, but it was a 10-hour edit of just him going through and doing it. And he did it on I have to stop looking at software and all that because the more I look at software, the more I realize why a Mac is just the best for productivity stuff. But I'm not going to get a Mac. I'm not unless I make a substantial amount of money doing this. I'm not getting a Mac. But I'm going through and I'm learning all this stuff from him, and then I realized that a new skill came out basically in RuneScape. And I don't know if you've ever played. I don't know if you've ever played RuneScape at all. Have you? Never. Okay. So did you ever play World of Warcraft?
Bro, the only thing I ever played is Final Fantasy.
So, MMORPG, it's just a huge world, and RuneScape and World of Warcraft are kind of flipped, at least in my mind. So, RuneScape, the skills that you have and then quests are both a pretty big deal. Like, quests, there's a certain amount of them. There's probably like 270 by now, but that's been over the course of the entirety of the game, since like 2004 or something. And then some of them even longer in previous versions of RuneScape back in like 1998 or something. And so quests are a big deal. Like you get the requirements for them, you do them, and then they unlock different magic abilities or different things. And then you have your skills, and then you have your end game content. And then World of Warcraft is kind of flipped, where the quests still matter at all. Like the quests, like it doesn't seem like anybody even reads the text that they're given when they get the quest. And there's thousands of them all over the world, and they're just everywhere. But you have your skills, and the skills are really important, and you level up, and then you have your end game content. And the end game content for both RuneScape and World of Warcraft are pretty much the same. And they're the same for pretty much every MMORPG, whether you're looking at Destiny or The Division or RuneScape. There's like raids, and there's dungeons, and there's high loot. But we haven't had a new skill in a couple of years, and it's always a big deal. So a new skill came out. It's called Archaeology, and you're basically digging up stuff and restoring stuff, and you're doing a bunch of other cool things. And it's a very nice skill. I really enjoy it. It's not perfect, as it comes with everything, but it is super uber AFK. Because one of the things you have to do is you get the most basic thing is you dig through dig sites, and then slowly over time you gather damaged relics that you can then restore. And then the third part of it is you turn those in sets for rewards. And then the fourth and the highest tier, almost like the bunker, the fourth and highest tier is when you turn those in for sets. Sometimes you get things called I actually don't know, I can't remember what they're called, but you get a chance for getting an item that you can turn into this monolith thing of energy, and it's like the apex of what you get from the skill. And what it does is it gives you like a permanent effect on your character. And so like you don't have to wear anything additional. You don't have to take up any slots to get the effect. And so there's things like it's like you never run out of run energy. There's like you always gain the effect of basically wearing a really high tier ring. You can always have that effect, so you can wear something else. You get more experience. There's a ton of stuff. And they're super powerful, and so the skill's really good. It has a really nice effect, but the very base level is you just need a lot of resources to do this, and you usually have to dig the dig sites more than you otherwise would, because you get the relics, but then after you get the relics, you need even more resources to restore them. So the main part of the skill is you're just sitting there digging. The only thing you have to do on the game is go bank your stuff every time your inventory gets full, and so every couple minutes. And I was like, oh, my dream. And basically, like
There it
I
is.
can play and I can just gather resources on this while I'm editing, and that's turned like my couple minutes to I can do it for several hours at a time, and then I just take a break for if I get enough of what I want in the game, then I will stop editing for a while, restore a couple things, go to a new area, start gathering again, and then get back on the edit. And so I just wanted to
Nice.
voice that because RuneScape deserves an appraisal for because
Way to
I
go,
was knocking my
RuneScape.
brain around trying to figure out what I was going to do. But that is I think we've gone through all of the games that we're currently playing. Valorant just came out. I have to mention that one. I don't know if you've heard anything about Valorant.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of streamers play it, and I'm sorry, Jordan, but I don't get that game
Did
at
you
all.
ever?
It
I
looks
have to
so
imagine that you
boring.
never, purely because of hardware. You never played Counter Strike.
Nope,
So basically,
never.
it's a hyper competitive. Like they take away a lot of abilities and normal things that your characters would be able to do in a lot of other games, like sprinting or
Yeah, that's
you.
like that was the main thing that I noticed was everybody was just moving around so slowly.
Yeah.
It was just
So
like,
the highest
oh,
you can, yeah. So the highest, so you can walk kind of fast, but and I never really understood this until I started playing Valorant because I never played Counter Strike. If you were walking at a normal pace, you make a lot of noise, and everybody has their headphones on, and a big part of the game is you can hear where people are at. So if you
uh-huh.
press shift, then you go into a slow walk and you don't make any noise. And so when you're
Oh.
moving, you can kind of see, at least on Valorant, I don't think you can even see like the radius
Mhm.
when you're moving around fast. But in Valorant, you
Mhm.
can see the circle around you on the minimap
Yes.
of who can hear the noise that you're making, and so you kind of walk up fast up to the main area of the map, and then you spend pretty
Mhm.
much the rest of the game moving around slowly because otherwise you're just giving away your position because people
I
can
see.
easily hear where you are. But it's
Hmm.
hyper competitive. It has a very interesting mechanic where your shots are way off if you are moving when you're shooting.
Oh
And
yeah. Uh-huh.
so you have to develop a habit that you don't really develop in any other game where you have to position yourself and you can't move
Mhm.
when you're shooting. For somebody that played
Mhm.
Halo a lot, that is really difficult cuz
Oh yeah, man. I can't
yeah,
imagine
cuz
that.
it's the exact opposite in Halo where like the snipers are accurate no matter what.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so flick shotting while you're moving around is a very big skill to learn to get you into the higher
Yeah.
elos.
Uh-huh.
And then on the other guns, it's not a matter of how you're moving. It doesn't Your movement doesn't have any effect at all. It's just if you're shooting too fast, then the reticle blows up too much.
Yes. Yeah.
Or if any other effect. But your my movement has never had an effect like this, and so it's completely alien
Uh-huh.
to me. But it's pretty good. I don't know if I have the time to put a lot into it because like the things like The Witcher and the other things. But
Mhm.
I played League of Legends for a long time, and I just installed it the other day because it's always kind of served the purpose of it's a very nice game to just get on and play, like a single
Mhm.
game, a single like 20 or 30 minute game. Like if I get home from doing something stressful, and then
Yeah.
just get off, and so like a game, maybe 2 or 3 games a week, I'd play it. And that's
Okay.
kind of the purpose it serves for me. But it's the same company that did League of Legends, which is still the most popular game in the world. They just released Valorant, which is quickly becoming one of the most popular games because that's kind of where Counter Strike had sat, and Valorant is a
Mhm.
direct competitor to Counter Strike. And so
I
I think it's
see.
really interesting. I only had to mention it because it's a closed beta, I think, still, and so you have to
Yeah.
get a code for it. And the reason so many people
Mhm.
were watching streamers is because that's the only way to get the code is you have to
I see.
you have to watch a streamer that has a drop enabled, and then people that are watching it, they have a chance to get the code sent to them. And so people were seeing ridiculous numbers. Like Summit had 200,000 people watching him at several points during the time.
Wow.
That's dropped a lot now because I think they've been giving out a lot more freely. Because when I got my key, I wasn't even watching anybody. And so yeah, so it's but it's good. I just needed to mention that one. But I got RuneScape.
Just because you're so special and cool.
Basically, I just wanted to say I had the code. And it's
Yeah.
people
You
have
just
been
wanted
doing
to
a lot to
gloat.
just kind of like you go to a random video and somebody just says like, "Hey, I got a Valorant drop." You son of a gun.
Gosh dang it.
But yeah, so in the next episode we still have a lot in the thing here, but sweet, we'll end it there, and we'll leave it till next time.
Alrighty.